Welcome everybody, and I really do apologize for the delay and those technical issues. So just a couple of housekeeping tips before we start on our first in-country module, Botswana, and we will be talking about desert, delta, and indulgence. So housekeeping, I know that some of you from Module 3 battled a little with downloading the mobile app, our agent manual. And if you have still not been able to download that, you can copy the link to our where to itineraries. They also give a lot of details about the different lodges in the different countries that we operate. It doesn't have quite as much detail as the manual, but it will still certainly lovely photographs and all the details about the different lodges. So joining me this evening here in Cape Town is Craig. Craig, tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been with Wilderness.
Thank you, Elle. Nice to be here. Thanks everyone for your patience with some of our technical issues. As you will learn in this webinar, we're really great in the bush and not so good in civilization. But that is a good thing because we work for Wilderness Safaris. So I've been with Wilderness 10 years now. I'm well known in the business as possibly the company's worst birder, although a very enthusiastic one. So my background is in zoology and guiding. Simon Stobbs is one of our most esteemed and well-known guides. He's also on the webinar with us today, but I've done a bit of work guiding myself. And now I work together with all of our key North American partners in building journeys that change lives.
Thanks, Craig. Awesome. And so today, talking about Botswana, run us through just a couple of the highlights of the country.
Super, Elle, absolutely. So Botswana, to give everyone a little bit of context, is about 250,000 square miles in size. Now that probably doesn't mean much to you, but it's about the size of Texas, to give you an idea. And as you can see, it's a country that sits right in the middle of Southern Africa there. It's a landlocked country. So they've got a very small population, only about 2.2 million people. And what's unique about Botswana is that almost 50% of the land has been set aside for conservation. So imagine half of Texas just being set aside for conservation. That gives you some context as to the wilderness areas of Botswana. It's also the home of Wilderness Safaris. It's where we started our business just around 1983. So we're talking almost 37 years ago. And so it is the home of our business there, and is also plays home to one of the most significant ecosystems in the world, known as the Archavango Delta, which we'll look at in more detail as we go.
Right. Thank you, Craig. So now, as a little bit of fun, I am going to attempt to draw as Craig describes the 3 different regions that we find in Botswana. So you'll, as part of your, one of the questions from the module 3 was, what are the 3 different regions? And all of you got that correct. And so we're going to look at a bit of detail about those different regions. So if you excuse the map.
Super, thank you, Elle. So yeah, Elle's drawing historically one of Africa's outstanding success stories. Botswana used to be quite a poor country and relatively unexplored until independence in 1966. And now they've embarked on an extremely innovative and proactive way to manage all of these wonderful natural wilderness areas in Botswana. And now it's well known as one of the key high quality low density tourism areas on the continent. So what she just drew there was central Kalahari, which is one region we'll look at, and what she's busy drawing now is the Yokavango Delta. You can see Elle was a former graffiti artist in her former life. And then, as we can see here, she's going to start to now work on an area known as the Linyanti. So these are three key areas that we refer to and where we have camps in these ecosystems. Central Kalahari, that's that block in the middle, the Archavango Delta, which looks like a fan on the left or an umbrella. And then right at the top, the little squiggly green line is the Linyanti area. So these are the three regions I'm going to look at in a bit more detail.
Cool. So that didn't work too badly. Craig, do you have earphones in? Because you're breaking out a little bit.
Okay, let me get some earphones ready. Plug them in.
While I just move back to there and move on to the next slide. So the Central Kalahari is, Craig's going to share with us a little bit of information about the first region.
Super.
And like we did last time, we are going to have some quick fire questions. Please pop your answers into the chat box. And Simon, I'm not sure if you can shout out, or perhaps hopefully it'll work. I can open the chat box and see who's first in telling us what this animal is.
Well, the first answer there was Diane Cook with cheetah. But
Well
there was
done.
lots of
Yay!
very quick
Awesome.
answers. Craig Glatthaar said serval. No, Craig, it's a cheetah.
Okay, so the one thing that about animals that and I like to explain different ecosystems is the fact that I live in Fishhook in the deep south in a house. Craig lives in the next door suburb to me, also I'm assuming in a house. Sorry, Craig. And there's slight differences between our two suburbs. Simon lives in Johannesburg. Other people might live in apartments or flats or different housing or different homes. It's the same with animals. So your cheetah requires a particular type of habitat. Craig, can you tell us why, or share with us why Kalahari Plains is the highest density of cheetah in Africa?
Sure, Al. So that's quite right. Kalahari Plains is known as one of the areas with the highest densities of breeding cheetah anywhere in southern Africa, and it's all got to do with the nature of the topography and the type of habitat in that area. So as you can see, this cheetah, they are predators by sight, and they're obviously built for speed. It's the fastest land mammal. Incidentally, Simon Stobbs is the slowest land mammal, but the cheetah is the fastest. And what's interesting about cheetahs and being a sight predator is they like big open plains where their prey, generally small antelope, like small deer, tend to congregate. And they like elevated points. And in this area where our camp is located, there's a number of deep fossil riverbeds. The cheetahs like to use the top of the fossil riverbeds as a vantage point, and then those fossil riverbeds form the perfect running track, much like the running track Usain Bolt uses. And down the running track they can go, where they can outrun and outpace the antelope that they hunt.
And then moving on to our lodge. Just run us through some of, as I go through the slides, perhaps you can just share with us what activities clients can do at Kalahari Plains.
Thank you, Al. Yes, well, Kalahari Plains Camp, first of all, is located inside the Central Kalahari Game Reserve. It's one of the largest protected areas in Africa, about 12 million acres in size. And it's 8 tents, 1 family room there. What's great about the tents, if you look at the top left of the picture, each room has a starbed sleep out on top of the room. So you can sleep under the southern hemisphere constellations, bathed in the Milky Way galaxy. And of course, game drives are the staple food of the area, but as well as guided walks, but game drives in and around the camp, around Deception Valley. You can see there's a room with steps going up to the roof for your starbed sleep out. A lovely style, lovely design. And there you've got your starbed sleep out with your, just so you're not worried about being unsafe, there is some wire railing over there to stop guests from going off the edge of the sleep house roof. And then, of course, in terms of activities in and around the camp, there's beautiful walks with the local bushmen. So these guys will teach you all about tracking and the different skills they had used back in the past to survive in what seems to be quite a benign and hostile environment, but actually has a number of intricate secrets to it that these bushmen unfold for us. And then, of course, game in the area, exceptional game. It's well known for what is known as Kalahari black-maned lion. This is a lion cub, of course. And these are exceptionally beautiful times during the summer period. You can see in this photo here, just who would have thought that this is a desert biome or semi-desert biome just after the summer rains. Now, bear in mind, seasonality down here is a bit different to where you guys are. We're on the southern hemisphere, so as you're getting towards your summer now, we're getting towards our winter. So our summer tends to be in about November through to January, February, and then this is the time of year when all of these beautiful colors spring forth as the bush feeds off the summer rains and you've got the youngsters around. So amazing time of year to be there at this time in summer with the cubs and lions, black-maned lions, and other animals in that area.
Which brings me to my next quiz question. Who can tell us what these juveniles are? Pups. I'll give you a clue. Simon?
Yes, Claire Kellycott came through with the correct answer. A lot of other people were a bit confused when you said juvenile. We've got Craig Glatthaar has come through as the answer quite a bit as well. But yeah, Claire was the first with brown hyena.
Brown hyena pups. Awesome. And next one. Who can tell me what a group or a collective noun of the honey badger is? Craig, you've got 5 seconds and then you can answer. Craig?
Yes, so the collective noun for a group of honey badger. Goodness me, that's actually a really good one. I would have called it a run for your life would be a collective noun if I saw a group of honey badgers. That's actually got me stumped.
Ah, okay.
I'm also stumped here, Albert. We've got some interesting answers. We've got a band, a clan, a colony. They don't congregate in groups. That's which is pretty true. We do see some small groups of them. Then a colony and a bolony. But I'm thinking that's a typo. But Al, you're going to have out of our misery.
Colony is one of the questions, one of the nouns used.
What about badgers in Europe? Badgers in Europe are called a set of badgers, I think, but I don't know if that applies in Africa.
But some interesting facts. A baby honey badger is called a kit, K-I-T, and they have this most incredible symbiotic relationship with a bird. Craig, I'm sure you know the honey guide.
Indeed, it's an incredible relationship that honey badgers have with a bird known as a honey guide, and there's a few different species of honey guide birds in southern Africa, and they will generally make a specific call to lead. Actually, they have a stronger symbiotic relationship with humans where they lead humans to honey, but they have been known to lead honey badgers to honey too, where they will lead the badger to the honey. The badger will, of course, rip open the beehive, get access to the wax comb and pieces that are left behind. The honey guide, the bird, gets to eat up the pieces left behind. There's a urban myth that if a honey guide leads you as a human to a beehive, and you do not leave any wax combs, any honey behind for the bird, the next time he will lead you into a pride of lions.
Yes, I've heard that one too. So basically, Kalahari Plains is about unusual, different animals and cultural experiences, and yeah, a desert, and as Craig said, a phenomenal green season. So a different time of year that your clients can go and visit. So the next region that we're going to look at is the Archavango Delta. And before we do that, I'm going to try my hand at drawing again. While Craig explains the very briefly the inundation process. So let me just get my pen, Craig.
Thank you. There you go. Right. So the inundation is the correct terminology. A simple layman terminology might be a flood. But now remember, the Archavango Delta is rightly considered one of the most incredible wilderness areas in Africa. And it's actually known as one of the largest inland delta systems in the world. Technically, a delta is actually open onto an ocean. But here it's an inland delta where rain falls up in the southeastern highlands of Angola, as you can see L drawing there, and it runs down over thousands of miles through pristine wilderness from Angola and reaches a fault line. And you can see L's drawn the river to the first fault line. This is known as the Gumara fault line, and it hits this fault line in about May. So remember, our rainfall falls in November, December, January, February, a bit of March, and it hits this fault line in about May, and it starts to flow out from May through to June, July, August, September, October, and as it continues flowing further and further out in this fan-like structure that L's drawing now, it hits a second fault line, that second straight line at the bottom of your image there. That's known as the Tominakani fault line. And then it stops, and it flows at about a 20-degree gradient, around 300 odd miles. And what's crucial about this is it brings life-sustaining sustenance to what would otherwise be a semi-desert biome at a time of year in the middle of our winter when there isn't a lot of water around. And so it forms this kind of oasis. But when we say oasis, we're talking about a 6,000 square mile oasis that attracts all manner of wildlife in and around this delta system throughout the year. So it's a very unique ecological event that occurs here.
Thanks, Craig. So I'm going to erase that, go back to my tool, and we will now look at the delta. We're going to look at 3 different camps within the delta. And some of you may know there's a very obvious clue in this photograph. What does Philo stand for? So this is the first camp we're going to look at, and the shape of Philo. Simon, any takers?
Yeah. Julia Gregory was up first with heart, so very good.
Fantastic.
Well done.
Craig, sorry, advisors, another question, and then Craig's going to explain it. What do we mean by a water-based camp? Anybody know we refer to water-based camp, land-based camp, and combination camps? Anybody know what we mean by a water-based camp?
Yeah, Al, we've got some good answers coming here. A camp that includes water activities such as boating, makoros, etc. Excursions by boat. You can do water activities.
Awesome.
Most water-based activities. What Craig Glatthaar drinks when he's at camp. Quite a few interesting answers.
Thank you, Simon. Craig, take it away. Tell us about Philo, and it's also an adventure style camp. So share with us a little bit about Philo.
Great, thank you, Al. Yeah, fittingly meaning heart in Setswana, as was answered earlier. It is an island, of course, surrounded by permanent water there, and all the activities as we highlighted already, focus on water-based activities such as makoros, which are dugout canoes, into these open, shallow floodplains, as well as boating and walking on the islands. The accommodations, just 5 spacious tents. All of them look out over the surrounding water, and there's main area, as you can see there, comprises a beautiful dining area. And then each of the rooms is this lovely canvas-style tenting under the wild date palms, jackalberry, and some of the Natal mahogany trees. And as you can see, different cool dining setups that we set up there. These guys are actually eating or dining for a brunch in the water, and you can see it's pretty shallow water and no crocodiles to worry about there. We can see them from far off. And here's the dugout canoes, or makoros as they're known, where your guide will pole you with through the actual shallows there. And here we've got a photo of Elle learning how to do a makoro. You can see they didn't put the cooler boxes in her makoro, and for good reason. It's pretty difficult to balance.
And also the guide was convinced that I was going to tip it, so he was taking off his shoes and socks. But it's
he was
really
in
not,
preparation.
It's really not as easy as it looks. And so perhaps, Craig, speak a little bit about the level of our guiding. And every guide that does an activity is trained in that way.
Absolutely, and we have specialist guides that specialize in various different activities, be it special interests such as birding or photography. Now remember, a number of these guides come from the tribes that originate in this area, particularly in the waterways. They're known as the Bai. And the tribes have for thousands of years eked out an existence in this incredible Archavango Delta system. So their knowledge runs a lot deeper than a PhD degree, that's for sure. They've got the knowledge that's been passed on through generations.
Indeed. So connecting wilderness air, connecting you with the wilderness, we move on to our next lodge. And who can tell me what type of lodge Chitabi is? And while we're waiting for the answers, Chitabi had a social media post today, and the biodiversity within Chitabi is incredible, and there is particularly the predator species, so the wild dog, lion, cheetah. The first photograph that we started the presentation, that's from Chitabi. So any takers, Simon?
Yeah, we're getting some great answers here. So we've had a classic camp and a land camp would be the 2 answers, and we've got a glorious land-based camp, which is a very good answer.
Awesome, thank you. Craig, share with us a little bit about Chitabi. I know it's one of your favorite lodges.
Absolutely. So Chitabi's location on the periphery of the Delta in the southeastern corner there offers some of the best year-round game viewing. It's located on a beautiful old tree island, and the camp itself is built on these lovely raised decks to provide superb views over that expansive floodplain that you can see in front of you there. Great mosaic of habitats, which means there's a plethora of plains game in the area and very high predator densities. 8 spacious tents, lovely fine art, wildlife photographs are set on these beautiful elevated rooms. Walkways and main area all connected together. Very light footprint. Most of our camps, just to quickly mention that before we go on to the wilderness quiz about this, with this photo of stray dogs that you can see in the next photo. Just a quick one. Most of our camps are completely off-grid, very light ecological footprint, 100% solar geyser systems. So that's something that's really important to wilderness safaris, is the impact that we have, and we try to minimize our carbon footprint as much as possible.
So these aren't stray dogs. Don't believe Craig with that one. Who can tell us what they are? And then Craig, just share. So it's as you know, wild dogs. Are one of my favorites. And Craig, Chitabi specifically supports Botswana Predator Conservation Trust, and they have donated annually for, I think we are in the 23rd year to this predator trust. Can you just share a little bit about that?
Absolutely, thank you, Al. Well, the gentleman who's been doing all of the wild dog research over these years, that is to a large part funded by Chitabi, is a chap by the name of Dr. Tico McNutt, and he's actually an American. And so he's been studying the ecology as well as population dynamics and movement dynamics of wild dogs in this corner of Botswana, because they are largely nomadic, so they move over massive distances. And as you would have seen maybe earlier in some of the slides, the wild dog is actually the chosen emblem on the vehicles that we have at Chitabi camp, and it forms one of the most important centers in Africa for learning all about wild dog behavior. And these are a highly, highly endangered predator on the continent.
Cool. So moving on to our next lodge, and our final lodge in the Archavango Delta for today. Who can tell us what type of camp Vumbra Plains is? And this was also a question from module 3 in the app. So most of you should know this. Craig, while we're waiting, I know some advisors that have been with me on FAM, it's when you fly into a camp from the air, you don't actually realize that the water, and I think it's on the right hand side of the slide, it might be reversed, I'm not sure, but the blue is actually water. And what are the channels in the water?
Great point, Al. So as you can see on the right-hand side of the slide is the water, and it looks kind of suspicious, but it's water that's got water lilies sitting on top of it. But you can see different channels, almost like veins running from the water towards the camp on the dry land there. And based on the different size of those channels, the majority of them are hippo channels, so hippo moving from the grasslands back into the water. So you can see where those hippo are using those as a highway to come and go. And then some of the wider channels that one might see could even be elephant that are moving through that area. But those hippos and elephant that move through the water, we term them ecological engineers. They're a very important part of changing this very, very dynamic Archavango Delta system as they move in and out through the waterways. And my favorite word is ecotone, and this is an example of an ecotone where habitats converge. Very important.
Yes, so Vumbra Plains is obviously a combination camp, and you've got the water, and then the line of the lodge, as Craig said, ecotone, and then into a different type of habitat. So as I spoke about homes, and we all live in different types of homes, the more habitats or ecosystems that you have, the greater the diversity of species that you're going to get. Craig, Vumbra Plains, Premier Lodge, take us through it.
Great. So Vumbra is one of my absolute favorites. It's actually one of the larger lodges we have. You will see most of our lodges are quite small, under 10 rooms in size, but this is a 14-room camp. Luckily, my mathematics at school was good, so I could add 8 plus 6 quickly there. And this is actually, it's essentially, Vumbra Plains comprises of 2 satellite camps, each with its own main area, beautiful, expansive vistas looking across the floodplains. There you can see main area looking out onto the floodplains there. It's a very luxurious camp, and as Elle pointed out earlier, very diverse camp with a great number of experiences and activities. Just to touch on the dining, this being a premier camp, we have fine dining, so it's plated meals as opposed to buffet meals, although at the moment all of our meals are plated. The buffet is not working too well in the time of COVID. So all plated at the moment. You can see the rooms are massive. I mean, goodness gracious, look at the size of this room. It's bigger than my house. We've got a step-down lounge, a main sleeping area, indoor shower, an outdoor shower, all of the luxuries one would want in the bush. And incidentally, all of our lodges are built from with wood and some composite decking. We don't use any concrete. It's not environmentally friendly. So beautiful spaces here in front of your room. You look out onto the floodplain, and as Al pointed out, a combination camp. So anything from makoros to boating, as you can see here, and then of course more of the land-based activities such as game drives, walking, and goodness gracious, hot air ballooning. Imagine drifting quietly over those plains as you see a pride of lions 40 feet below you. That is one of the best experiences one can ever have.
Absolutely. Thanks, Craig. And so that rounds up the Archavango Delta for today. Bear in mind that we have 21 different lodges that your clients can choose from. Couple of adventure like Pilo, quite a few classic like Chitabi, and then quite a few premier like Vumbra. And so we move on to our final region. And if you remember me trying to draw, this is now the Linyanti. And we're going to showcase DumaTau. It has recently been rebuilt. Craig, talk us through the Linyanti. How is it different to the Delta?
Right, so the Linyanti in the northeast of the Yokavango Delta lies along a fault line. And very varied woodland habitats, these beautiful ancient floodplains. You can see the strong woodland background there. And this helps create a really balanced experience of the country to combine the Linyanti with the Archavango Delta, or something as unique as the Kalahari Plains. It's well known because of some very, very unique features in this area. The Hippo Channel, and then of course the productive Linyanti River frontage, which you can see in this image here. This is the Linyanti River. And so there's really substantial seasonal zebra and elephant migrations that add a whole other element of wildlife drama to this area. DumaTau's are the newest kid on the block, just completely rebuilt, 10 tents, 2 of which are family. Great diversity of experiences here. All of the rooms look out onto Osprey Lagoon. You can see Osprey Lagoon over there with a lovely floating fire deck at the bottom, and open air dining, as you can see in this image over here. And of course, a lot of activities happen on Osprey Lagoon too, which we'll get into in a moment. But the main area is just incredible. We have an interpretive library and what are known as curiosity boxes, where you can learn all about the diversity of species in this beautiful concession in Botswana. The back of the room over there, you can see a map which is showing different sightings, where the lion sightings might have been yesterday, or the wild dogs or painted wolves, as they're sometimes called. And this is where one can really sort of unpack and feed one's curiosity about some of the unique fauna and flora in this beautiful area. And then, of course,
hold on, Craig. So the curiosity boxes, they're in the units, and they life size, and they share these lots of details about elephant and wild dogs specifically. And then in the lounge or in the library, there's other learning, touch, feel, smell sensations. So for me, DumaTau is just the most incredible learning experience. So it's phenomenal for children. It's educational. You could easily spend a night or two just in the camp and absorbing everything that DumaTau has to offer you. Now, advisors may remember from our module 2 with Neil, we touched on DumaTau's impact model and its purpose. If Simon's still with us, can advisors please put in what you remember about the purpose of DumaTau? So remember, every lodge, every Wilderness Safaris lodge has a purpose. And can you remember what that purpose is for DumaTau? Simon, are you still with us?
Yeah. So we've got one question, which is one answer so far, which has come through, which has said elephants. I can let you expand on that a bit more, Al.
Cool. Yes, Craig, share with us the importance of the migration of elephants and having these corridors where elephant migration, elephant movement, they are protected.
Great. Oh, thank you. So yes, as mentioned earlier, this area particularly famous for seasonal zebra as well as elephant migrations. It forms some of the key migratory pathways for elephant herds moving from north of the Untitled Channel, so that's on the Namibian side, crossing the Untitled into Botswana. And of course, they are moving out of pristine protected wilderness areas in Botswana and into agricultural areas in Namibia. And as they're moving through these various different corridors, there is a rather large potential for human-wildlife conflict to occur. And so wilderness safaris and DumaTau is forming the center for studies in elephant migratory movement, as well as studies in finding solutions to reduce agricultural conflict with elephants as they move through these areas. And we've created and worked on some pretty groundbreaking concepts. Some of them, some of you might have heard about, which are chili farms, as well as beehive fencing and various different non-invasive conflict mitigation measures to ensure safe passage for these elephant families that have for generations migrated to and from the Untitled area.
Thanks, Craig. And it's also, advisors might remember, it's the fulcrum point of 5 different countries where elephants can migrate to and from. And elephants don't see countries, and they don't need passports. What they do need is a safe passage. So from Botswana to Namibia, or from Botswana to Angola and back again. And that is the purpose behind DumaTau. So Craig, I'm going to ask you, this is obviously a DumaTau suite, and do you know where the color palette, the inspiration for that comes from?
Oh, goodness gracious me. This is definitely a trick question, because the one thing I don't know much about is scatter cushions and color palettes. I didn't even know it was called a color palette, but I can see that it looks like salmon pink. So I'm going to take a flying guess and say that it came from tilapia fish.
Oh, interesting. So not quite. Apparently, it's the undertone or the color of the lily leaf, the underside of the lily leaf. So that's where the colors come from. And right throughout the lodge, you'll see those, as Craig mentioned, salmon-colored hues, if you like.
I think Simon would be able to give us a bit more detail on the difference in color between salmon and coral.
Craig, share with us a little about the retreat. So, I mean, this is just the most incredible spot.
Oh my, this is the place to rest your weary soul. This is the spot to disconnect, to reconnect. So literally we have this incredible outdoor area that you can't see it in this image, but in the background is this beautiful outdoor bar that serves all manner of wonderful snacks and drinks, as you can see on the table there. And that lady staring into the distance has forgotten about amazing champagne that's sitting behind her. But this is the place to chill out, relax, kick your shoes off, and spend an afternoon in an armchair safari. You don't have to go out on the game drives. This is the spot to spend time as you watch elephants as they swim back across the Linyanti Channel or bathe in Osprey Lagoon. And if you're really perceptive, you'll notice that we've actually got chairs that are sunken down into the water. You'll see just down there where Elle's pointer is. So you can keep your buttocks nicely cool as you sit on that sunken chair watching elephants bathing in Osprey Lagoon. What a place.
And then obviously DumaTau also has a spa which is off from the Osprey retreat, and this area is in between DumaTau and Little DumaTau. One of my other favorite things that I'm so excited about with DumaTau is our partnership with EcoExist. And this is an NGO in Botswana where we joined partnership with them about 2 years ago. They support local farmers and supply farming equipment and farming advice on, and then also mitigating elephant-human conflict, which Craig briefly touched on. So what Wilderness Safaris has done is we've donated more than, or almost 1 million pula, which I did look it up, is, Craig, tell me the US dollar equivalent. But
so
it's
in pula terms, yeah, you're looking probably at about, it's got to be around 12 pula to the dollar now.
Yes, if you quickly Google it for us. But it's a substantial amount where we bought farming equipment for the local farmers. And we are in the process of sinking 2 boreholes in the area. And then what that will do is it creates a sustainable economic farming practice, and we then purchase the crops from these farmers, and that's mainly sorghum and millet, and that is used in our lodge. We're calling it a mindful menu, and we've taken sustainability one step further. It's not just about our footprint, but it's also about our food print. And Craig, anything you want to add to that?
I think, Elle, you covered it all beautifully there. I think an important part of our food print is also the sustainably sourced food that we bring into the camp. So we work with a number of rural communities, not only in Botswana, Rwanda, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Namibia, where we help support sustainable or regenerative farming practices. And so a lot of our food is sustainably sourced, and there's always a story behind each meal that is served. And that goes into our annual impact report, where we're actually measuring the entire company's carbon impact. So a very important part of our lodge experience.
Yes, and maybe advisors aren't familiar with the, you know, these ancient local grains, sorghum and millet, but it's I mean the lodge has just done the most phenomenal things with these crops, and you wouldn't know that they were something local, and also they are gluten-free, so they tick all the boxes. And with that, unfortunately, because of technical issues, we aren't actually able to share with you a video. I had you will learn, we will discuss our new platform or our new partnership, which is called iTravel, and it's very, very exciting. We will share, we'll go into details about iTravel in, I think it's module 6, where we'll do a full demonstration and the developer, the person that designed it or thought about it, Andy, he will join us. I had put together an iTravel video of the lodges that we have spoken about today. ends our presentation for today. Please remember that you have to register for each module next week, and it's Choose Africa Tuesdays with Wilderness for a whole month. So next week is Rwanda, and then the Zambezi region, and then Namibia. I don't know if there are any questions. Simon, I can't see the chat box. I know you probably have answered them for us.
No, I'm just working through some of them now. So there's some questions about what foods we buy from the local farmers. I don't know if you want to do that. Oh, I can.
Sorry, what fruits?
What food? So it's basically the local grains. We'll be sourcing local grains, then also accessing groundnuts, corn, things like that from the local farmers. And then there's a question on how does the Olympus program work at Premier camps?
Craig, tell us about the Olympus program.
Absolutely. So Olympus designed some incredible mirrorless cameras. So these are shooting in the region of 60 frames a second, amazing cameras. So we've entered a partnership agreement with them where we have various different touch points for camera bodies as well as lenses within the camps. At Premier camps, you would be able to get binoculars and even cameras for each and every room, in essence. And then at some of the classic camps, we have shared camera bodies and lenses and binoculars. There's even an opportunity, if you're entering Botswana and traveling just through wilderness camps, to pick up a camera backpack with bodies and lenses to carry you on your journey from start to finish. So you pick it up in Maun and leave it in Kasane, or the other way around, or Maun to Maun. And at all of our camps, our guides have been extensively trained in Olympus photography, as well as just general photography. All of our guides are exceptional photographers, but now they're especially exceptional with the Olympus gear. And so it's a great way to actually increase your knowledge on wildlife photography or birding photography. And yeah, the Olympus range is just an exceptional mirrorless range that really rivals some of the more established brands like Nikon, if you call it Nikon or Nikon or Canon. Yeah.
And then we also get
just
to add to that, we also your client will get that memory card free, the first memory card, so they can actually capture all their wildlife memories and take those home. We also, at the Premier Lodges, there is a station to download your photographs if you've taken them in RAW. So that's available, and all of this is a value add. So there's no extra cost for the loan of the cameras. Sorry, Simon, and I also wanted to just add to the food. We do also. So for example, and I think we'll chat about it in the Zambezi presentation, but for example, at Tokalea, we source all of our fresh produce from local farmers. So all of the salads and the vegetables and some of the fruit is sourced locally. And so yes, so it's Wilderness Safari's ethos to assist and support local economy, reduce our footprint and our food print where we can. Are there any other questions, Simon?
Yeah, so just on the cameras, there were some questions about whether we need to book them before. So yeah, it's definitely best to, when you are planning a trip, just let your journey specialist know so that we can make sure that there's a camera there for your guests when they arrive. So it is good to do it ahead of time. Then there was a good question about what are Botswana's 3 main ethnic groups. So that would be the Swana, the Kalanga, and the Basarwa. The Swana is the most prevalent. Basarwa is also known as the Bushmen, the people who occur further south in the central Kalahari area. And then the Swana, for those of you who do have an interest in Botswana history, the country's got a fascinating history. Craig alluded to it at the start. You know, the wealth, it is a wealthy country, and a lot of that is due to the discovery of diamonds, which was actually 1 year after independence. So there's some fascinating stories around that. There's a great movie called A United Kingdom, which I strongly recommend, and there's also a book called The Kalahari about Seretse Khama, which talks a lot about the history of this amazing country. So, and that will give a lot of the details there.
Yeah, the movie is phenomenal. And I'll put that information into our follow-up email after this webinar. It really is a great movie.
Yeah. Then there was a question, is it warm enough to use pools or plunge pools in July? The days are pretty, you know, they can be pretty warm in July. I'm just trying to do a quick conversion, probably getting into the mid 80s, maybe even up to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. But the water doesn't get anywhere near that. So although the days are warm, the pools are very chilly because we get cold nights and mornings. So you can go in there, but you're going to get fried. The water is cold in July.
Yes. So I mean, our temperatures go down to about 60 Fahrenheit, if I remember correctly. So yes, it is pretty chilly.
Yeah, and then just some, you know, nice comments as well coming through here. So thanks for those. But I think that is it as far as the questions go. Thanks from my side.
Simon, Craig did have a question, and I'm not sure, but it is the end of the webinar. So he wants to know if elephants need a negative PCR test to cross the country borders. And that would be a no. Elephants don't need passports and they don't need tests. Craig.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.